They think it is a good model to pair those 5th and 6th graders up. And for their collegiality, their curriculum work, there are tremendous advantages to keeping them together because they have been together. So that has really left us with those reasons for favoring this 5 through 8 configuration for the new school.
So it sounds like the 5 and 6 will stay together as they've been working right along, and 7 and 8 will move together.
That's sure been the assumption, is to keep the models, the educational models intact for the 2 sets of grades.
Right.
The 5th and 6th would run essentially as they are operating now. The 7th and 8th would run, again, as they're operating now. The 7th and 8th being completely departmentalized, students going from class to class every 40, 50 minutes, whatever it may be. Whereas the 5th and 6th might be departmentalized for math, might do a little bit of that, but are going to be much more based in 1 or 2 teachers through the day. I think the matchups for some of the common subjects, the art, the music, the phys ed, is we still think they probably will keep the teachers or bring over the teachers they have now. The scheduling is probably going to wind up overlapping. There'll be a 5th, 6th grade going on while a 7th, 8th grade phys ed class, for example, goes on. And the space is being designed to accommodate those sorts of needs. So that gets a little trickier, but basically the educational models that both are following now will probably be continued in the new school.
Right. It sounds very interesting, and I definitely like the fact that there's fewer transitions for students. So,
boy, that's where we started from with this whole thing. 3 years ago was the need to cut down on the transitions. That the 7th and 8th grade teachers administration, and this goes back to Jackie Billet's day, when I started here, long lamented how it seems they were always preparing one group of students in a transition. Either the 7th graders coming in for the first part of the year, or the 8th graders getting ready to move on afterwards. So as a school, they were always in that kind of flux. Somebody was leaving and departing. But it's true for the kids too. Just to have that many more transitions. That we used to have, what, 5 transitions for some kids?
I think
in
that's
the course of the years. At one point it was. And this would get it down to, I guess, well, 3 different schools in the course of their schooling. And that was always viewed as a big plus to give them more stability through the course of their years.
Well, I see the potential of the students coming in and indeed staying there through 4 years, forming relationships with not only teachers and students, and really making it nice.
The comfort of a physical setting and the stability of a physical setting, is important, as well as just the operation, that you're not always moving kids in and out. So I think that should be important for their learning. I mean, it would be a wonderful new setting, and they have them take advantage of it for that longer period of time. I hope there would be great advantages for 5th graders simply in being in a new building with even the facilities that 7th and 8th graders that would have. There are a lot of opportunities for curriculum programming that 5th graders typically would otherwise never have. We knew in consolidating this year the schools, closing down School Street and Sacred Heart, one of the things we had in mind was, geez, these kids ought to have a real gym, a real library, some of those facilities that they really had not had in the smaller settings. I think the same thing is true with 5th and 6th graders for this as well, that it would have, again, a lot of those common areas that will provide some real educational benefits.
And true space that meets their needs.
Something designed for them, not that we've run grades through over the years repeatedly, but a space that would be designed for their needs. And that's what the architects are trying to accommodate. I mean, as recently as last week, the architect was out visiting the schools, and half the day at the junior high, the other half the day at Seminary Hill, talking to teachers about the layout and just what their needs, desires were for a new setting. I guess people were surprised to learn that, that's still something to be talked about. The planning can still take place as the architect sat there literally with a red pencil again, redrawing some of the drawings, that can still be done, and they seem to be pleased to think that their desires can still be accommodated, but that's exactly how it's taking place now, as an architect talking to these teachers
That's great.
about what they want.
Right at the ground level.
Very much so.
Or in the trenches.
Out there in the buildings
Yeah,
anyways,
yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
And I guess she got a lot of input in meetings.
Oh, that's great. I'm excited to see the design of the building as it takes shape as far as the external part of the building. I love the fact that the orientation of the building has been really well thought out, or as far as students and their lighting for the students, and the energy efficiencies and some of the other opportunities that might be available as far as, I know that one thing might be considered is that green roof, which I think that's very exciting if we get that far.
I sort of like the work they've done, the architects have done in incorporating some of the features that suggest the downtown, the old Lebanon.
Yes.
With the cupola, for
right.
example.
I noticed on the drawing, yes.
Yeah, to take some features from Lebanon that had become well-known or distinctive in Lebanon, and even at the junior high school. We had long talked about trying to take that very cupola from the
Right.
building and put it on the new one. Whether we can get away with that now or not, I'm not sure. But they have designed a cupola for the new building
Right.
to retain some of those vestiges.
Yes.
Of the
And
old ones.
I noticed also in the drawing that curved windows, very much like the windows that are currently at the junior high. And I like those touches.
Yeah, that had been attractive, but are badly in need of some
Yes.
repair and
Right.
maintenance and so forth at this point that we have put off with the hope or expectation of a new building. Yeah.
The junior high is just plain old too small.
Too small and old now, and no question, sacrifices have been made over, I'm going to say the last 10 or even 15 years on that building, because it had reached a point where, yeah, we need to replace it. I strongly believe that. Yeah, with the hope of a new building, because we didn't want to keep sinking money into that building
Sure.
once it reached a point that it was no longer really adequate educationally. Educational needs have changed a lot over the last couple of decades with things like special education, foreign language for junior high school, middle school students. And we need a lot of spaces, computers, that we didn't need 20, 25, 30 years ago. So that has really pushed a lot of this description of the building as it now being inadequate. We just don't have space for that stuff.
And I think that for the viewers, it's not that it's even necessarily that we want a space that's this large. There are state standards that have to be followed.
Yes, and what's peculiar about our building, that anyone knows who's been through it, is the odd and unusual shapes of the rooms.
It's like an old house.
I describe it as a museum. I thought it was like walking into an art museum. Every room is a bit different, and you're not sure which paintings are on the wall, but every room is differently shaped. And I always had that sense of walking through the building, that yeah, every room has a different shape to it, as well as size.
Right.
And yeah, so, and that is not the product of thinking that English should be an L-shaped room versus social studies, a rectangle versus math, a square. It's just randomly how the shapes came out.
Right.
And, but it's always been a bit odd on that respect, yes.
It's probably like when you buy an old house and, oh, I decided I'd put a wall there instead.
Yeah, but
You know, things.
without having the expectation anymore that we're going to continue to fix it up.
Yes, yeah, great. Was there anything else that you'd like to